Look at that damage. Look at that damage. Perfectly balanced. Help. Help. Intel integrated graphics, help. Soon I'll be fighting lag. Yeah. We'll leave it there. Huh? Time for pan, boys. Prepare your GPUs. Is your GPU ready? GPU prepared. Hello gamers, my name's Kerplunk. Today we just got done building a StormBlade with ice shards. StormBlade, if you don't know, is Storm Mastery with also Rogue Mastery. Together it makes a StormBlade. You could play StormBlade many different ways. You guys have probably seen and heard about ice shards. Ice shards on a StormBlade is very powerful. Let's go over the gist of the build. In your Storm Mastery, you do want to take ice shards as soon as possible, and you want to max it out as soon as possible. This is your setup. You full send ice shards, get torrent, 3 out of 3 projectile, 3 out of 3 homing, and then 3 out of 3 chaos. Chaos goes together with torrent. Torrent is required for chaos, but basically torrent adds projectiles, and so does chaos. Chaos makes the direction of the shards, instead of come out in a cone in front of you, they go in a chaotic direction, as the title might imply. And then projectile pen is self-explanatory, and so is homing. When you're at 3 out of 3 projectile pen, you penetrate 3 targets, which basically means if it's only 1 target, it will penetrate 3 times. And when you have a total of 18 shards penetrating 3 times, that's a lot of damage. And you'll notice that if it's additional penetrations to the same target, you'll notice it's 80% less damage. That's not a big deal. We'll kind of mitigate that a little bit. And then homing does exactly what it sounds like. It's more range, more projectile speed, and homing strike. They will seek out and find their target. That's the crux and the idea of this build. Make your shards penetrate, pierce, and come back and home again, right? So once that's set up, you want to absolutely focus on Storm Enhancement from the Storm Nimbus buff. This is a buff that reserves energy. It scales lightning and cold damage. Ice Shard's base damage is cold. You can see up here, it's a spell, it's a projectile, and it's cold based. So this works really well to enhance the Ice Shard's damage. You could pick up 1 point in conservation. We're at level 30. The max level is level 40, so you have plenty of active points to kind of play around with things. If you feel a little weak or getting a lot, maybe early on you're taking some damage, you could try out some of these other modifiers. But I found that just full sending Storm enhancements was just good enough. You don't need anything else. This is at tier 2, by the way. The Storm Nimbus is available at tier 2. You can full send Divinity at level 6, or once you kill the bird. That's enough Divinity to get to tier 2 stuff. And then finally, for utility, we picked up Blink with 2 charges of Repeat. Blink is a traversal spell. You can get around and zip between mobs. And this Repeat modifier allows you to do it up to 3 times within a 6-second window. It's just, think about it as a teleport and a blink, as the name suggests. As for the passives, you absolutely want casting speed and critical hit chance. These are the feats. Let me move my head out of the way. You want Raging Mind, absolutely. Now, we don't get Rage on this build, but however, you do still get the increased spell damage. You do get the increased casting speed. Cast speed and critical chance are the feats. Those are the most important. We're not doing ailments on this build. Additionally, moving up the tree at tier 2, I don't have enough passive points yet, but I picked up Storm Attunement. This is passive cold damage. This is lower on the list, by the way. This is very low on the list. We want to be setting up our homing and projectile damage first. There's a crit buff that we get to later, and I'll get to why crit is important. It's very important in this build, but Storm Guidance is the next power in this build. You increase projectile damage. Ice shards are all projectiles. You increase homing. You increase range. This is all good stuff. The feat added is, first one is homing, second one is pen. Those are necessary. The more penetration, the better. The more homing, the better. So that's a no-brainer. There's nothing in tier 3 for the passives I took on Storm Mastery, but you can see there is more power to be get from Storm Attunement, passive cold damage. You can get projectile damage 15% here, and then spell damage by 10% and 4% increased casting speed. This is all good stuff, just didn't have enough points yet. Moving over to Rogue, as mentioned, the only active thing we're taking in Rogue, we want Preparation. Preparation is the only and the most important thing from Rogue for this build. Preparation is also a weapon buff that reserves energy. Same effect, same concept. Within a radius, you're increasing poison damage by a percentage, and you're increasing percentage physical damage. We're not taking advantage of the physical damage. We are taking advantage of the poison damage. But subsequently, the only modifier that you're using, and the most important thing in this build, is something called Shadow Dagger. We went 5 out of 5 Shadow Dagger. Whenever you crit with an active ability, there's a 70% chance that a Shadow Dagger backstabs the enemy, dealing 56 poison damage. Okay, so there's the important bit. When you crit, there's a high chance to deal just instant poison damage to a mob. You can scale poison damage on your gear. You can get poison damage from modifiers. You can get poison damage from your passives. You can get a crit chance from all kinds of passives. We're full sending the procs of Shadow Dagger. Before, when we were talking about all the penetration and all the 18 projectiles and all the crit and casting speed, we're just full sending Ice Shards, hoping they crit. They will crit. They're going to penetrate a lot. And then those subsequent penetrations will crit. So then Shadow Daggers are proccing a ton. The Shadow Daggers will ultimately do actually more damage than your base Ice Shards. If you cast long enough, if you fight hard enough mobs, like I said, we're only level 30, so we're not fighting anything super crazy, and things die really, really quickly. But that's the idea of this build. The only other active skills in this build are Mark for Death. Mark for Death is a target debuff. You put it on a mob that you think is a prio target, and basically you deal an extra 10% of the hit as vitality damage to that mark. So by the way, you can do a lot of vitality shenanigans with other types of builds, but we're getting free damage additional to a marked target, and then it has no cooldown. It has a very low cast time, and then there's little energy cost. You basically pick a mob, you pick a boss, anything like that, and it's debuffed to take more damage. We have another Shadow Dagger modifier here. Shadow Daggers now deal 6 additional poison damage to that target. So each time it critically hits, you're getting 6 additional poison damage. It ramps up quite rapidly. We also took a couple points out of Weaken. You'll make a boss, since it's always going to be marked, deal less damage. It seems pretty safe. And then finally, we did pick up, you absolutely want Vanish on almost basically every rogue build. You're going to want Vanish. We have 5 out of 5 points in critical hits, but let's quickly go over what Vanish does. It has no cost. I think that's broken. It needs a cost. It has a very short cooldown. There's no casting time, but what you do baseline is 30% increased move speed, 30% increased damage for 6 seconds. That's all damage, by the way. 30% increase all damage. Okay. The modifier crit hit chance, enhanced critical hits, is 150% increased critical hit chance, and then plus 30% crit hit damage multiplier. That's a no-brainer. We want to guarantee our Shadow Daggers every time and then make them deal even more damage. Ice Shards do more damage, all of it. It's huge. After that, we have just passives and our base tier 1 abilities. We took up all of accuracy. You put every point possible in there, 12 out of 12. This is blanket 39% increased damage, 65% increase crit hit chance. Remember, we want the crits, we want the guaranteed crits. The feats to these passives are as follows: crit hit chance and high crit hit chance. Once we get enough gear, I think we can get rid of the high crit hit chance and go for the crit hit damage. But basically what this does is it gives you more crit hit chance to get you up to that guaranteed crit threshold, and then it reduces your crit multiplier. So we don't actually really care about crit multiplier, to be honest with you. We just want to guarantee our poison or Shadow Dagger procs. So this is not really that much of a penalty. But the more shenanigans you do with your gear, the easier you can take this out. And then, like I mentioned, this is another 20% increased crit hit chance. So these two play well together. Over also in the tier 1 area, you do want at least a few points in Deft Hands. Deft Hands is also a damage modifier and a cast speed modifier. This early cast speed is quite nice. You could probably get rid of it later, but also you can see our first and only feat that we've chosen is crit hit chance. Another 20% increase crit hit chance is really nice. This feat over here, let me move my head, is attack and casting speed. That cast speed could be useful. I didn't find that I needed it in this build, so we didn't take it. But yeah, that's Deft Hands. And then we didn't take anything in tier 2. And then at the tier 3 level of Rogue, you can see over here on the far right hand side, we took Dismantling Tactics. Deal 42% increased damage to your mark target when you kill an enemy. You deal 91 vitality damage to your mark. So if you're ever fighting a scenario in which there's like a warlock that's guarded by a bunch of mobs, you mark the scary target, and if those mobs that you cleave die before the marked target, that marked target is going to take increased damage as you kill mobs. So it's really, really nice. Our first feat into shred resistance for marked target, they have -8% resists. That's basically all for our passives. Let's quickly talk about maybe some properties you want on your gear and also the way we stacked our attributes. For our attributes, we went 100% into knowledge. Knowledge has the aggregate for cunning and resolve. Resolve does cold damage. Ice Shards is all cold damage. Cunning is poison damage. The poison damage is all of our, Shadow Daggers and whatnot. So you just full send knowledge. If you feel a little weak, maybe you can spend 10 points into vigor to keep your health up. But yeah, I just full sent our glorious bird for knowledge. And then like I said, if you're playing hardcore and you want to play a little bit more cautious, slap 10 points into vigor. As for gear, I almost always recommend either tri-res on a chest piece or health and vigor and as much res as you can get on your chest piece. That seems to be good enough to not worry about vigor stacking. I'm playing hardcore solo self-found. It's not that difficult. Played +5 mobs most of the game. Look out for health on the chest piece. That's kind of the most helpful. And then ideally you get a lot of damage from your weapon. I only found 30% cold damage. You would want, I think, cold damage scaler, you want spell damage scaler, and poison damage scaler. I did find those two of the 3 things. The third one would be perhaps crit hit chance. But yeah, you definitely want as much damage on your weapon as possible. And I just can't find the perfect roll. We haven't min-maxed at all, to be completely honest with you. And then the implicit here, the casting speed, 9% casting speed is a pretty good one to look out for. The rest of the stuff is all about your jewelry, basically. You want crit hit chance on your rings as much as possible. And increase spell and cold damage if you can find it. My gear is completely unoptimized. But you can see as many places as I can. I'm scaling cold damage on my bracers. On my boots, I always recommend at least 1 res and movement speed. Our shoulders, we have health, crit hit chance. Yeah, so we're just all about crit hit. And by the way, and on your headpiece, because we have 2 weapon buffs that reserve energy, the headpiece is the only place you can find minus energy reserves. Actually, I think you can get it on your amulet too, but you want to find this minus energy reserve at least on one piece, because that does help. Because we're knowledge stacking, all of our items are going to have energy barrier, and you want to use energy barrier at least a little bit. But when we're reserving all of our energy, you can see over here, we're at like half energy. When you use barrier, because barrier is on all of your gear, you're going to consume all of your energy just to create a barrier. So you want to try to mitigate that a little bit by reserving left's energy, which is why earlier I showed you we took 1 point auto conservation. That is a good 1 pointer, so just pay attention to that. But this build's really easy. Anyone can do it. Iceshard is OP, and this is no different. I hope you learned something. It's a lot of fun playing this build. It's super, super easy. So thanks for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!